Alright, so we saw Commander Cody come back. And if you're thinking, well, Commander Cody didn't go anywhere, you have to stop and think about it for a little, because canonically in a timeline, if you put it on a timeline setting, the last time we have seen Commander Cody in the timeline was 17 years ago. Maybe even more than that, because we're 2023 now. So hooray for us, Commander Cody is back. But wouldn't you want to see another clone come back finally? And this guy is even legend, so it makes it even tastier and even better. Somebody that we have not heard about ever since the Clone Wars cartoons of 2003. Yes, my friends, I'm talking about Captain Fordo, one of the best clones I have ever seen operate. I grew up with Captain Fordo, in fact, back in the day when I was just a teeny tiny boy. Clone Wars animated show hadn't come out yet. I didn't know Commander Cody. I didn't know Captain Rex. All I knew of the clones was Captain Fordo. He was the trusty helpful of Obi-Wan Kenobi, General Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, Bad Batch Season 2 brings back Commander Cody. So what about Captain Fordo, though? Fordo and, as we know, a couple of ancient Sith that we've talked about ad nauseum, some characters just do deserve to come back into canon. Now, what I'm proposing is nothing new or nothing crazy, because we've seen a lot of Legends characters slowly come into canon lore. Disney has been very subtle with their reintroduction of some characters, and even at some points deleted characters that did not appear at all in the movies. We've talked a lot about the Darth Vader comic book series, especially the 2021 right now that is going on. In this comic book series, you can see a lot of characters that were not seen in The Rise of Skywalker just because they were left on the cutting room floor. They were deleted scenes. But the Eye of Webbish Bog, we saw the remains of the Sith assassin Ochida Bastoon, but now in the comics we get to see a full-fledged character of Ochida Bastoon going against Darth Vader with the wishes of Palpatine, of course. So why not bring back Fordo, the legendary clone that could never be really replaced? Here's an interesting aspect that I'm trying to propose. So many say that Captain Fordo is actually Captain Rex, completely canon, a fully fledged character, and it superseded Captain Fordo. But I personally don't see it that way. I see it as two individual clones separated. Yes, they do have kind of the same traits, but Fordo is much more straightforward. I see Fordo as a mishmash of Hunter and Captain Rex. Tactful yet cunning as well. If you've seen the Clone Wars 2003 cartoon, you know what I'm talking about. Captain Fordo is relentless. He is so pragmatic, so intelligent that even Yoda and Mace Windu depended on him during the attack on Coruscant. Why couldn't there be a scene, basically, depicting Captain Fordo, who is a very similar clone to the Bad Batch, going up against the Bad Batch themselves, Hunter and the others? And since we can see Tarkin on Kamino working closely with the Kaminoans, this is the time, I think, this is the opportunity for them to present to us Captain Fordo in canon. Captain Fordo getting contracted by the Empire to go up against the Bad Batch, find them and kill them, do whatever it is necessary to complete the task. How Fordo's personality is depicted, it is just in line with what I'm talking about. It says that far from being a subtle man, Fordo preferred straightforward tactics, employing overwhelming firepower as opposed to complicated strategies. He eventually became famous for his bombastic approach to any given situation, which continually awarded him success. He was modest, he refused to take credit for his actions, instead valuing contributions of those who fell on the field of the battle more. Fordo was undeterred in the face of great danger and fought on with unfailing courage, no matter how dire the situation was, although he would give the order to retreat in the face of overwhelming odds. This could be seen during the Battle of Hyporia with Ki-Adi-Mundi. In the Battle of Coruscant, Fordo had faith in his Jedi generals Mace Windu and Yoda, who both oversaw the Republic troops. We've all seen that specific moment where Captain Fordo, in his Phase 2 armor going up against the battle droids, a legendary moment that I think will live on after 20, 30 years. Whatever it is, this Legends material will just not die out. Just imagine these cartoons were in 2003. We're 2021 right now. We're close to 20 years since that cartoon, and it still lives on to this day. today. Newer generations are always discovering the Clone Wars cartoons and seeing how cool these characters actually were. It's very sad to see that Captain Fordo is still not introduced in canon. It still remains a Legends character, and I would just love a chance for him to be back in the Bad Batch series. Maybe not a storyline, maybe not an arc completely, but just a mention or a brief introduction to Captain Fordo. I know the fans would absolutely go bonkers, would go crazy to see Fordo come back. The original OG clone back from the 2003 cartoon Clone Wars. In fact, many forget that the Attack of the Clones and to some extent Revenge of the Sith didn't show the, let's say, clone perspective. In the movies, they were just generic soldiers, but the cartoon show, and more so the animated show later on, showed the true inner spirit of the clones and how they were different from the others. They had their own ideas and their own individuality, but Fordo especially told the line between obedient clone and following his own path. The clearest example of this was the Battle of Hypori. Ki-Adi-Mundi and several other Jedi Masters and Knights were close to being completely annihilated by Grievous. He went on to kill some, but Grievous came for Ki-Adi-Mundi, and if it wasn't for Fordo, the Jedi might have perished completely. When the captain ordered his men back on board the gunship, Ki-Adi-Mundi then went on to protest this decision, insisting that they pursue Grievous instead, but Fordo pointed out to Ki-Adi-Mundi that the survivors would surely perish if they stayed longer on Hypori. In the end, Ki-Adi-Mundi relented to the wishes of Fordo and boarded the craft. As they flew away from the crashed acclamator, Fordo activated the remote bombs, wiping out a large number of enemy troops and clearing the path for the gunship to escape through. This is a clear example of him contradicting the Jedi for a better solution, and in the end, yeah, that's what ultimately saved Ki-Adi-Mundi and the rest of the Jedi. It was Fordo's decision making. However, he still respected the other Jedi and their opinion, and knew who to actually trust and rely on their judgment. Another example that we can use to show this is the Battle of Coruscant. When the Separatists invaded out of nowhere, Fordo engaged the droids knowing full well that he had the backing of the Jedi. He was reassured by Yoda and Windu, who were flanking the Separatists from the left, and Fordo and his men were charging from the right. It shows Fordo's complete indifference if we examine it. Fordo, with no hesitation, would confront the Jedi when he felt their thinking was wrong, like he did to Ki-Adi-Mundi. That's what separated him from the rest, his courage, but also his sharp thinking. Again, I want to stress this out. Do not compare Fordo to the other clones from the animated series. I think it's not fair, because Fordo didn't have the luxury of multiple arcs showing his change in character, his rich character. Basically, yeah, the arc of Fordo. We never got that. He was only shown here and there in some episodes from the cartoon show. He was far from a subtle clone. Fordo preferred straightforward tactics, employing overwhelming firepower as opposed to complicated strategies like the Jedi would somewhat employ. He eventually became famous for his furious approach to any given situation, which continually, awarded him success. But let's not also forget that he was modest. He refused to take credit for his actions at times, and instead he valued the contributions of his fellow clones. Fordo was undeterred in the face of great danger and fought with unfailing courage, no matter how dire was the situation. Although when push came to shove, he would give the order to retreat in the face of underwhelming odds when he knew that he was about to lose. What do you guys think? Talk to me down below in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed, leave a thumbs up down below, subscribe for dailies. Now you can have an awesome day, Star Wars fans. I'll see you in the next video, and may the Force be with you. Until then.